Hey, what's up guys, you got Gypsy, and I'm back here today with some more Bloodborne. This is going to be the second episode of our Bloodborne playthrough, and before we jump into today's episode, I want to thank you guys for the response I got from my first upload that I uploaded a few days ago. It means a lot to see you guys, supporting a different game on the channel. Um, I I love Mons. Mons is still coming. I got plenty of draft format coming. So don't worry about that, but I thought in the meantime, why not mix it up and throw some Bloodborne into the mix, and it's really cool to see such a positive response from you all. So yeah, you guys are the best. I do appreciate it, and hopefully you guys continue to look out for this content, because Bloodborne just gets better and better. I'm very passionate about this game, so if you guys have any questions about the story or the mechanics or anything like that, don't hesitate to ask questions in the comments, because I do read all the comments and I try and get back to all of them. So yeah, feel free to ask me any questions you have about the game, because I won't be going as in depth as I could be, because that would just take a huge amount of time in whilst also narrating what I'm doing in the actual playthrough. But so yeah, if you guys want any more info, hit me up and I will gladly give you guys what I know. So we're going to continue exploring the town of Yharnam today. Hopefully we'll be able to take on some more interesting enemies, and hopefully find some new clothes, because these kind of lecturer robes, they're pretty bloodied, and to be honest, I feel like we need something more appropriate for fighting off these beasts. So we'll see what we can find, but at the moment I can hear what sounds like a music box playing, and I believe it's coming from this house through here. But this gate is blocking our path. It's closed by a lever on the other side of the gate, so we can't currently access that house, but we might have to come back to it later on as we make our way through the town, because I believe that music box is pretty significant, so we'll have to keep that in the back of our heads. But these dogs up here, you see there are two roaming dogs going back and forth, almost patrolling, and then you see a patrol of townsfolk. And we've just been spotted by one of the riflemen, so that is going to aggro this dog. And if we take him out first before the rest of the men approach us, we should be in a pretty fine spot, because the dogs as I discussed in the last episode, are extremely annoying in Bloodborne, and they're capable of really rapid movement, very unpredictable, and they can stun lock you with ease. So the key is luring them away from their friends. Alright, so now we're just left with the rifleman, who up close really can't do a lot to us, and we take him out. I think there might be one more dog, and there is one more dog over here. And this is going to allow us to explore the area. And we get 6 blood vials. That's a ton, so that's really good for us. It really stocks up our blood vials. For those of you guys who missed the first episode, I'll be leaving that a link to that in the description below. Definitely recommend you go and check it out, because it was a pretty entertaining start to the game, and I did kind of cover some of the basics of the game if you're a little bit confused. But blood vials are essentially like health potions in this game, and the quicksilver bullets function as the sort of the source of magic, or also like your ammo in the game. So but we'll get more into that as we play. As we climb these stairs here, you hear an ominous kind of howl, and you're going to see where that's coming from, because as you can see to my left here, there are two werewolves patrolling this bridge, and these guys are strong. They have a lot of health, and they are significantly more powerful than the wolf we fought in Iosefka's clinic at the beginning of the game. So we want to give those guys a bit of respect. At the moment, we are quite weak, and we don't have a lot of health, so we will definitely take them on at one point, but for the moment, we will give them some room. But it's moments like this in this game that I just really appreciate the level design that the developers really brought to this game. Down here, you can see the square we just made our way through. We defeated the ogre down at that base level where all that blood is, and we made our way up through here. We took on the dog patrol, and we're met with this beautiful big bridge, and you're gonna see how kind of clever the level design of this game is coming up. So the wolves won't be able to see us from this far up the bridge, which is nice. So we should be able to explore down here, and we find an item. Oh, okay, we find a bloodstone shard, so that's good. When we can start to upgrade our weapons, that's going to really come in clutch. So we're getting a few of those, which is really nice. And instead of going directly down to face those wolves up at the bridge, I'm going to go down here and explore to see if there's anything useful down here, because, like I said, we're pretty weak at the moment. So now this drop off here reveals the area we just cleared in the last episode. You see that's the big beast they were burning on the stake on the pyre up there, and yeah, we took out some dogs and some townfolk. There were a whole bunch of them around this area, so pretty beautiful the way the level design allows you to see the area you just cleared. And up there, that's the bridge. That's the bridge right there. So you can see it's all connected and it's all accessible for the most part, which is, yeah, an aspect of this game that I do really like. So we find some pebbles on this body here. And after I recorded the first episode, I was thinking about the pebbles, and I think it's worth mentioning to you guys that if we look at the item description of the pebbles, you can see the actual pebble itself looks an awful lot like an eyeball. And we know that the crows that we fought in the last episode dropped these pebbles, and crows are scavengers that hunt the dead bodies of animals and humans, and these look an awful lot like eyeballs. So that's pretty interesting to think about. Instead of pebbles, we might actually be throwing around hardened eyeballs, which is pretty creepy. But eyes are a huge theme in this game, as we're going to discover as we move forward. So yeah, eyes are very symbolic, and there are a lot of references to eyes as we play. So we find another bloodstone shard, and this is actually something I missed the first time I played this game, but if you come over here, you can find another bloodstone shard, which is really nice. But these barrels here, if you knock them over, it's actually going to reveal a hidden area, which I think is something that a lot of new players miss. And you can see there's a little ladder down here, kind of implying we can get lower, which is really cool. And this is going to lead us down to kind of like a sewer section. And the reason I think it's a sewer is mainly because you can see this kind of aqueduct thing that they've got going, and you can see the lower level that has water down there, and you can see large rats infesting that area. So yeah, definitely a nasty area. Not the kind of place you want to get dropped into if you don't have to, but this ladder is going to take us right back up to the top. But we'll see what's down here before we head back. Got a good amount of health, and we see this is a new enemy. We haven't seen one of these guys before, but they look to be the townsfolk who have really moved past the state that the current townsfolk we've faced are in. These guys look a lot more like beasts than the other enemies we've faced so far. They're definitely retaining some of their humanity. They're walking around with torches, but they're really hunched over and very hairy, and their feet and their limbs look a lot like beast limbs. So yeah, very interesting enemies design-wise. You can see they've got long claws on their feet. So yeah, these enemies are pretty intense, but I know for a fact these guys are a lot stronger than the regular townsfolk that we've faced at the moment. And we'll see what they're like up in close quarters combat. They've got a big torch which they do like a slam attack with, and they almost look to be wielding like a guillotine. That's kind of what it looks like to me. And they take a lot less damage from my attacks than the other enemies we've faced, so certainly a testament to how strong these guys are. And he dropped an oil urn, which is really interesting. And oil urns can be combined with molotov cocktails to deal a huge amount of damage to enemies weak to fire in this game. So that's a strategy I will definitely be employing as we move forward. But these guys are really strong, and this guy with the spear it's a really powerful, nasty weapon. But his attacks have a huge wind up, meaning that he's pretty vulnerable to to the gunshots, which I just did then, which put him in a position where he could take a critical hit. As you saw, I did that grab attack. And what's interesting about the critical hit is that it's not actually my weapon stabbing into him. My character's hand almost turns like into kind of like a beast hand, and impales the enemy, which is really interesting, and it has some pretty strong story implications as to why that is. When I first started, I just thought it was his weapon, like he was just stabbing into the enemy, but the more I played, the more I realized it was actually his fist, and you can see the fist actually change, which is pretty full on. But we're gonna drop down, and we luckily we land on this railing here, which is gonna allow us to get some thick cold blood, and this is going to give us some more blood echoes. It's just a consumable item that allows us to get some more blood echoes, which is going to be useful when we want to buy something. But we're going to try and get the drop on this rat. There aren't too many, most of the rats are up that end, so we don't have to worry about being ganged up on by those things. And we'll try and get a drop attack, as that didn't do as much damage as I thought it would. These rats are big, nasty things. Look at them, they're huge. Look at it. These rats, like, whilst they're not the strongest enemies, if you get attacked by like 4 of them and they're like running and jumping at you, it can be pretty overwhelming. So we see another one of these beast dudes around the corner here. So like I said, quite easy to parry. That's probably like the most straightforward way to take them on, if you can get your timing right with a gunshot, as they have like really crazy flailing attacks. You can dodge around them, like you can dodge around them fairly easily, but if you get caught in one of their sweeping attacks, like this, for example, that kind of melee swings, it can be really dangerous. So yeah, definitely a more aggressive enemy than what we've faced thus far, but he gives us some blood vials, which is going to be really useful. And what do we find here? Oh, we find a hunter set, which is going to be really nice. This means we can ditch this lecturer outfit and finally equip some more suitable armor. I won't go through the stat breakdown of this armor, but as you can see, like it offers far better defenses across the board than the kind of garb we were wearing previously. So, and it looks badass. Like now we look like a hunter. We don't look like some professor who's just walked out of class. So yeah, definitely more fitting. As you can see over here, this is an area that we don't have access to at the moment, but it definitely looks worth exploring. There's an item down there, and it's surrounded by a whole bunch of huge bodies, and I can't tell if they're dead or alive, but yeah, that looks like definitely an interesting area to explore, and it shows that the sewers go deeper than the level we're on now. So we're gonna have to come across that later on. But for now, we're gonna make our way back the way we came, but not before we take on a few more rats. These guys, yeah, these rats, are nasty. They're very weak to fire. They get one hit KO'd by Molotovs, but I don't want to use all my Molotovs up. I want to keep some of those, because if I have to take on those wolves, they'll definitely come in handy. Alright, so only a few more well, there's 4 more rats up ahead, and ideally we can separate them from one another so we don't have to face too many at once. Oof, clutch dodge there. Yeah, as you can see, that little rat, they're very quick. Like when they get pissed off, they move fast. So getting some distance with your gun is probably a pretty safe way of approaching them. If you feel like they're running too quickly, you can just fire off a shot to at least deal a little bit of chip damage and just kind of stun them. So we get one. That was lucky, even though the other one kind of dodged it. Yeah, so the short version of our saw spear, saw cleaver, really isn't cutting it here. But yeah, the length of the transformed version really coming in clutch there. Doesn't appear to be anything down this side, so we're going to head back up the ladder. And now that we've got this armor, That's going to allow us to take hits a little bit better, and it's going to give us some better fire resistance, which is pretty nice. Better resistances overall, and it does look. I mean, it looks cool. Like I like this armor a lot. So we're going to climb the ladder, and we're going to head back towards the bridge where we saw those wolves. And I think at this point we're actually going to try and take on those wolves now that we've got a bit of better armor. Slightly better armor, and we've got a few Molotovs stocked up. It might be wise to lure one of the wolves away from the other to kind of take them on separately. And we'll see if we can manage to do that. It's always better to take these kind of enemies on one by one as opposed to together. But we will see if I can lure him. Okay, so we do successfully aggro this guy, and hopefully his mate doesn't see us. Yep, okay, so this guy's aggroed. We will attempt to take him down here. Yeah, so that Molotov did big damage. Big damage. Yeah, his claw attacks do a lot. So his mate came, so this is not good. So we're gonna have to do some stealthy dodging around here. We're gonna have to lure these guys back up to an area where I have the advantage, because in an open area like that, they're just gonna surround me, and we can use this. Might have to. Yeah. Might have to get a critical on him like that, just to kind of give me a bit of leeway. We'll bring them back through here and throw a Molotov. And that takes care of those two. So yeah, pretty intense at this point. They do a lot of damage to us, but we got those guys out of the way, and we got a ton of blood vials from that, which is pretty useful. And this should clear the bridge, at least somewhat, for us to go and explore. Yeah, damn, those guys are a lot stronger than the wolves we fought in Iosefka's clinic in the first episode. And we see I didn't pick up one of these items here, so it's a good thing we came back. We get another blood vial, and we can pop our health back up to full. And see what awaits us on this bridge. So there's got to be something of use here. I mean, there are two werewolves on either side guarding it, so you can see chariots with coffins on the inside. I guess carriages, not chariots, but okay. So we see another one of those large ogre-like. We see another villager here. Okay, and catch the work. Yeah, this is an interesting spot. It looks to be some crows and one of those guys. So that's actually that's an intimidating kind of group, because those crows, as we saw in last episode, are pretty crazy with their movements. We can drop down there. But we aren't able to get back up if we drop down. So I don't really want to do that right yet. I'd rather explore a bit onwards before we drop down there and see what's in here. We're going to use the torch to illuminate this house, because without it, it's very dark, as you can see. And the torch actually allows us to see a man that's hiding behind those barrels. So that's going to be very useful to know. You can actually hear whispering too. Yeah, you can hear whispering, so it's kind of like a tell that there's someone here. Alright, so that's one down. There's another dude chilling over here. So this is like an ambush. I think you run towards the item, and these guys are in wait. So really clever level design, in my opinion. And we secure some more cold blood. So I can still hear some kind of murmuring. So there must be another enemy in the house somewhere. There's a guy here. Alright. And there appears to be an item over there. I'm going to open this door up first to see. Okay, so we have to open the door from the other side, which is interesting. And we are able to open this door, and that's going to lead out. We're not going to go out there currently, though. We're going to grab this item from here, and there appears to be an item over in that corner. But I think there's a dude in this chair here. Yeah, there is. He's very sick. He's not okay, and he's got a gun there too. So we're gonna preemptively. Oh shit! This dude's got some firepower on it. So we take his bullets, and we get a pungent blood cocktail, which is really interesting. We'll read what that has to say. Mature blood cocktail that releases a pungent odor when thrown that attracts bloodthirsty beasts. A precious tool in sadly short supply. In Yharnam they produce more blood than alcohol, as the former is the more intoxicating. That's interesting. So blood in Yharnam is obviously a huge presence, and you can use these blood cocktails to attract enemies to a certain spot, to the spot you throw it. So definitely some tactical use of that item. But what is this? When the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the great bridge to Cathedral Ward, as old Yharnam burned to the ground that moonlit night. So that's a ton of information. We know that the healing church left the people of Yharnam. They blocked off the great bridge to Cathedral Ward. And old Yharnam is an area that we haven't heard about yet, but it was burnt to the ground, which is really interesting. And yeah, that's pretty significant actually, that piece of information. So we know that the church isn't necessarily the most thoughtful group, leaving the people of Yharnam to suffer on the night of the hunt. And yeah, definitely some useful information. Okay, so there's a guy up here. We see an enemy, and he's an axeman. Oh damn, he's here. So he's got a torch. You can actually use your torch like a weapon, as that guy did there. It is really useful against enemies that are weak to fire. And this door right here is actually a shortcut to our first lamppost. So this is going to be really significant. If we die, or if we venture back to the Hunter's Dream and we get respawned here, we now have this beautiful shortcut that we can use to get back down to this area, which actually cuts out a huge amount of travel, which is very useful, very useful. So we'll see if this guy has anything else to say.
Across the valley to the east of Yharnam, that's your...
No, he doesn't have any more dialogue at the moment, so we're going to have to do a few more things to advance this dialogue, but really nice that we've unlocked that shortcut. So we see two of these ogre guys coming up, and again, we don't want to take these guys on at once if we can help it. I'd much rather separate these guys, and we're going to try and aggro. Okay, so we've aggroed one, and hopefully not his mate. We'll see. We'll see. So it gives us some shining coins, and they can be used to mark our way, which is really useful. If we're exploring an area that is kind of confusing, we can throw down some coins, and they'll kind of serve as markers for where we've been. So we take out the second. I'm gonna call these guys ogres because they kind of look like them, but realistically they're just mutated, or I guess big humans who've been infected with this curse that's consuming the town. So up this pathway to the right, we see the door that was actually locked from the outside, and this is going to give us another little mini shortcut, allowing us to get through the house. Of course, going back up these stairs is going to lead up to the bridge that we just came from earlier. So we're opening these little shortcuts, giving ourselves more convenient pathways to different parts of Yharnam. Again, that is the area we cleared in last episode. So it's all kind of coming together. We're going to continue down here and see what else awaits us over here. So this is that area that I mentioned on the bridge. If we fell off, if we dropped down here, we wouldn't be able to get back up. But now that we've opened up that shortcut within the house, we will be able to get pretty easily back up onto the bridge. And before exploring down there, I want to go back up on the bridge and take on those crows and that one last ogre up there. So I feel like the best way to approach this would be to aggro the ogre, separate him from the rest of the crows, and take on those crows after we've taken on this guy. But as we've seen, these guys are fairly easy to take on with parries, and I'm gonna refer to that as a parry, by the way, like just shooting them and putting them into that stunnable position, because it functions as a parry does in a lot of these games. It's essentially the parry in this game. So we take out the ogre and we get a nice amount of blood vials, and we're left taking on these crows. So these guys aren't too bad. We're going to hit them with some overheads. Oof. We're going to hit them with some overheads. Bro, you need to calm the fuck down. There was another crow like hiding under the corpse of that ogre. Yeah, these guys are pretty crazy. And he's down, so that's pretty nice for us. Alright, so we know that the healing church blocked off the bridge when the hunt began, and this appears to be the bridge that leads towards Cathedral Ward. So that is interesting. That's interesting to know. We know the people of Yharnam are essentially stuck with beasts roaming the streets, and it's not a good time for them. The healing church have disappeared somewhere, and here we face our first boss, the Cleric beast. So this is a very interesting boss. As you can see, our attacks are doing a very little damage to this thing. But he does not like fire. And the fact that I just threw the oil urn on him is going to really increase the amount of damage that my fire attacks do. The key with bosses in the game is not to get too greedy. Oof, he gets us. So unfortunately we got clipped. We got clipped on his leg, and I wasn't able to dodge back fast enough. But yeah, the Cleric Beast is a very cool boss in my opinion. He's the first boss you come across, and it takes a little bit of time to learn his kind of patterns. And he actually, all the bosses in Bloodborne, they go through multiple stages. So they they lose a different amount of their health, and the more health they lose, the kind of stronger they get. But upon fighting that boss, upon encountering him, even witnessing him, we gained something called insight, and that the eye marker underneath where our blood echoes are measured has a 1 next to it, and that implies that we've gained 1 unit of insight. And the secret of Bloodborne is that insight is crucial to understanding what's actually happening in the world. With 1 insight, we actually see this doll for what it really is in the hunter's dream. And
hello, good hunter. I am a doll, here in this dream to look after you. Honorable hunter, pursue the echoes of blood, and I will channel them into your strength. You will hunt beasts, and I will be here for you to embolden your sickly spirit.
so this doll actually functions as our means of leveling up our character.
Did you speak with Gehrman? He was a hunter long, long ago, but now serves only to advise them. He is obscure, unseen in the dreaming world. Still, he stays here, in this dream. Such is his purpose. Farewell, good hunter. May you find your worth in the waking world.
Okay, so very interesting, lots of information there. We are going to come back and talk to the doll, but first we're going to go and get revenge on the Cleric beast and get back all our blood echoes, because when you die in this game, you lose your currency, and the way you get it back is by going back to the point that you died and picking it up. So we're going to head back there, get our blood echoes back, and hopefully take on this boss, and then we'll be able to go and speak to the doll and use our blood echoes. So like I said, insight in this game is incredibly important. It's what allows us to understand, I guess you could say, the supernatural elements that are at play in this game. Though it's not quite supernatural. It's more. You'll see as we begin to play, as we get further in the story. But the term supernatural doesn't really cut it. It's more the truth. The game refers to it as the eldritch truth, and it's more based around the idea that humans in our regular forms can't comprehend the true nature of reality, but with the more insight you gain, the closer you get to understanding that. So the werewolves are further up there. We don't actually have to take them on. If we progress further down here, they won't see us, but we will have to take on this ogre again. I'll just equip some pebbles and do what I did last time. I did not intend on throwing that oil at him. But we have aggroed him, which is great. Alright, so now we approach the fog gate, and this fog gate appears when you're challenging a boss and you've died and you've come back to retake him on. Here we go, round 2. Alright guys, that was a long drawn out fight, but I wanted to illustrate how this boss plays, his kind of attack patterns and the different stages in that fight. So you notice that like the longer that fight went, the longer he was losing health, the more aggressive he got. He started off with like 2-hit combos, then he worked his way up to like 4-hit combos in the last sort of 40% of his health range. And every time he did that sort of charge attack where he powered up and he had that red aura around him, he gained a ton of power. So his damage improved a huge amount. So that is probably enough for this episode. I'm going to end it off here. We managed to find some pretty clean armor, some pretty clean new robes, and we took down the Cleric beast, the first boss in this game, as well as earning ourselves some insight. You see now we have 4 insight. We gained 3 more insight after defeating the boss, so that's very interesting, and that insight is going to be very useful as we move through the game. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments of the first boss in this game. The boss fights in this game are just incredible. So yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys think of that, and yeah, I look forward to the next episode. Hope you guys enjoyed.